Welcome to the Better Process Podcast. And today for my next guest we have Dr. Lisa Lang, and she's the president of the Science of Business, which is an international consulting firm which specializes in helping companies achieve bottom-line results through the application of theory of constraints, lean, and Six Sigma. Dr. Lisa is an AGI-trained JONA and TOC, which is Theory of Constraint, ICO certified expert. She's one of the few TOC experts recognized worldwide by Dr. Goldratt, developer of Theory of Constraints and author of course, the best-selling business novel, The Goal. And she is one of 2 approved experts for delivering viable vision. And that is something we had on the show here probably a couple months ago. Anyway, when I sat down with Dr. Lisa, I asked her, what do you see as being the largest issues for small and mid-sized manufacturing firms?
A recurring theme is the ability to increase sales and have a proportional increase in profits. We see manufacturers that successfully increase sales, but then increase profits very little or not at all. Then there are the manufacturers who remember their best year of profits, but they've never hit that level again, and despite all their efforts, can't seem to get their profits to the desired level. They've been in business for 20 years and have tried everything. It just seems to be elusive. So I would summarize it as manufacturers are challenged to meet their profit goals year after year.
So what do you see are some of the ways that people are solving these issues?
To have a substantial impact on profits, you have to do 2 things. First, increase your capacity with little or no investment. And second, sell the newly exposed capacity. If you can uncover capacity, or if you currently have excess capacity and you sell it, the sales dollars minus your raw material costs drop directly to the bottom line. So let's say that you have $2 million in sales today, and we uncover 50% capacity, which means your sales would increase to $4 million. Of that $2 million, let's say that half of it is your raw material cost, which means that an additional $1 million, half of the $2 million, would drop to the bottom line. This leads to profit increases without having to depend on other traditional approaches that prove difficult, like increasing prices, trying to get your vendors to reduce your raw material costs, or trying to figure out other ways to reduce your operating expenses.
How can your company specifically help with solving these issues?
We use theory of constraints tools like many manufacturers have read about in the book, The Goal, along with Lean and Six Sigma, to achieve substantial capacity gains in operations. And the minimum we typically see is about 50%. Now, these tools have been around a long time, and there are probably thousands of success stories showing this type of results. However, if you get these results but can't sell any of this newly uncovered capacity, there's no bottom line effect. So now let's talk about how to turn that capacity into profits by selling it. We help clients create what we call a Mafia offer. Now, we don't go around breaking any kneecaps or anything. A Mafia offer is an offer that's so good that your customers can't refuse it, and your competition can't or won't offer the same thing. Now, in order to develop a Mafia offer, we analyze 3 things. First, what are or what could be your internal capabilities compared to your competition? Second, how does your industry, you and your competitors, sell what you sell? And third, understanding how your clients are impacted by your capabilities and how you sell. Now, Mafia offers are specific to a company, so while an example would not apply to you, it's a good way to illustrate the offer. So I'd like to tell you a story. I have a client that sells custom printed labels. These labels are found everywhere on just about every product and are considered by many to be a commodity. Their quoted lead times were 2 to 3 weeks, and their due date performance was about 80%. We started with operations and were able to get lead times down to 2 days and due date performance to over 99%. Sales remained stable during that time. Now, this was significant because their competition was at about a 2-week lead time and around a 90% due date performance. So it was important that they have at least some improvement up to that level of competition. Next, we looked at how the printing industry sold labels. They used the price quantity curve, as most printing industries do. The more labels you order, the less you pay per label. And if you only want one label, well, the price is very high. Then we looked at how their specific customers purchased and used the labels, because an offer is only a Mafia offer if it's unrefusable to your specific customers. In this case, their customers were regional-sized food and beverage manufacturers. One customer was a coffee roaster who roasted many different varieties of coffee and sold them in several sizes, so they needed about 100 different labels. Now, when you look at the price quantity curve, they looked at it and decided to order what was equivalent to 6 months of labels. To decide how to spread the quantity across the 100 labels, they had to forecast what they would sell. But because their forecasts were always wrong, and whose aren't, they ended up with too many of some labels while stocking out of some of the fast-moving coffee. We know that this was happening because they would call frantic to get what they had just stocked out of, and at the same time were not ordering some labels, hadn't ordered them in a while because they had dust growing on them. We also found that their marketing departments felt limited because they could only make changes every 6 months, which was about the time it would take them to work through their inventory. So we made the following offer. We said, Mr. Customer, don't give us orders. Your orders are based on your best guess of what you might need. Instead, tell us every day what you used. We'll guarantee on the one hand that you will not need to hold more than 2 weeks of inventory so that you have more flexible marketing and less risk of obsolescence. But at the same time, we will also guarantee that you never run out. And if we ever stock you out, we'll pay you $500 per day per SKU. Now that's a Mafia offer. It basically gave the best of all worlds to your customer, allowing them all the flexibility in marketing, changing every 2 weeks if they want to, minimum inventory risk, minimum amount of dollars tied up, and at the same time was of no risk to you. Because you can replenish in 2 days, paying a penalty was never going to be an issue. The competition cannot offer the same thing because they cannot consistently deliver in less than 2 weeks. They're quoting 2-week lead times, and their due date performance is still about 90%, so they won't risk it. They won't make the same offer. What's interesting is that we find Mafia offers for over 80% of the companies we work with. So my question for the listeners are, how much capacity could you uncover, or do you currently have, and what's your Mafia offer? You can find out more about Mafia offers by going to www.mafiaoffers.com. Thanks for listening.